Hello guys, and welcome back to CHEAPEST TV. Earlier this year I announced that I am finally committing to rebuilding my Defender 90 and getting it back on the road, and that while it's being rebuilt I'd love to have a substitute for it for 4x4 and utility vehicle duties, and that there was one vehicle in particular that I was interested in, the latest generation of Suzuki Jimny. So I am very excited to share with you all my Suzuki Jimny. So, my Suzuki Jimny. This was the cheapest example of the latest generation Jimny on the market here in Denmark when I got it. And, well, isn't really saying much, even though it makes for quite a good title for this video, because this generation of Jimny is the latest generation. It hasn't been out that long, having launched in 2018, and then the commercial variant coming out in 2021, which this one is. More on that in a little bit. And it's done 20,000 kilometers. So nothing really in 2.5 years, and it's got a few, battle scars here and there. Clearly the previous owner has used it for its intended purpose, which is fine because I'm going to do the same. And they didn't hold back in terms of the dealer fit accessories that you can get for these. It has quite a lot of them. So I'm talking about the bull bar and the spotlights at the front, all-terrain tires, the alloy wheels from Sparco, the wind and rain deflector things on the windows, these plastic trim down the side, mud flaps, and there was a spare wheel cover on the spare wheel on the back, which I've now removed. Got a couple of bits inside as well, like a center armrest between the seats and a screen with Apple CarPlay and stuff as well, which is all nice to have. And what else? I think that was most of it. And obviously, that's a really nice bonus. It wasn't the main reason I went for this one in particular. Really, the thing I was concerned about is having some all-terrain tires. That was a must for me on one of these. And I think pretty much everything else I was not too fussed about. However, it does present another benefit for me, because I personally really do not like the look of this bull bar and the spotlights. I think it just looks a bit, if I'm being honest, a bit tacky. I really don't like the chrome look, and also these spotlights are just like comically large in comparison to the rest of the Jimny. It just doesn't work. They're massive. I don't know if that comes across on camera. It looks quite cartoony, if I'm being honest. And the same with the spare wheel cover that was on the back. That was a chrome thing like this, which didn't like the look of, and I've already removed it. However, why it's a benefit for me is because, well, kind of two reasons actually. One, I found out that this bull bar, spotlights, and the spare wheel cover, when you combine the cost of those from Suzuki, comes to about 15,000 Danish kroner, which is insane. So hopefully I can sell that stuff used, and it will go towards buying some other mods for this Jimny. Again, more on that in a bit. Plus, again, the other benefit is allows us to make even more of a transformation on this Jimny, going from this to whatever it ends up becoming with the mods that I want to do for it. So it'll be a bit more of a transformation from this slightly ugly duckling that I feel that is at the moment to something a bit nicer looking, a bit meaner, etc., etc. I've already made a couple small changes, not that they're anything particularly exhilarating, but I have added some rubber mats in here because, strangely, the previous owner did fit this with tons of things like mud flaps and all-terrain tires, but had carpets in it, which I find bizarre. I don't know why you'd do all of that and then have carpets in a car like this. So I've got some Suzuki genuine rubber mats down there with a nice Jimny text on them, and you can see they're already very muddy. I mean, in this environment and with what I'm going to be using it for, it's definitely needed. And the one in the back here as well, nice big rubber mat here with some text in what I presume is Japanese. I have no idea what this says, and I know it's not the word Jimny because I've seen the word for Jimny in Japanese, and it didn't look like that. So maybe it says luggage or something like that. I have no idea. Other accessories. Does have a little reversing camera down here, but it only works about 50% of the time. So yeah, it's not really needed on a car this small. Anyway, I think the biggest benefit is just lining up the tow bar. But speaking of which, I'm probably just going to remove this because I don't think I'll ever, or maybe very, very rarely, be towing with this Jimny. So, and it doesn't help with departure angles and etc. with off-roading. So probably just going to take that off for now. While we're back here, I can also talk about the fact that this is a commercial variant, as I said. Why did I go for a commercial variant? Well, The main reason is that it's a lot cheaper, at least in this country. I don't know how it works in other places, but here in Denmark, it's a lot cheaper to have the commercial variant because of the way taxes and car registration works. So this is registered as basically a utility vehicle. That's why I have like this 1/3 yellow, 2/3 white license plate. This is registered as a utility vehicle for private use. You can also save even more on tax if you get a utility vehicle for business use, so a car you buy through a company. I haven't done that. This is for me in private use. I haven't bought it through a company. But if it was a 4-seat Jimny, you'd have a completely white license plate, which means a private vehicle, which then allows you to have rear seats in it. But I don't want that. I mean, I don't need the rear seats in the Jimny. They're super cramped anyway, and I have other vehicles for that purpose. For this purpose, I need a utility vehicle. To get a Jimny with the rear seats in them in this country, you'd pay about 50 to 100,000 kroner more than what this one costs, which would be well out of my budget anyway. So yeah, this is a lovely practical setup. It's really nice to have a car like this from the factory with a dog guard and big, just open load space, big wide opening into the door and everything there. What else can we talk about? Rust protection. Rust is one of the biggest issues, I think, with the Jimny. We're all familiar with that. So I have had this coated underneath with some rust protection stuff before I picked it up from the dealer, but otherwise it looked perfectly clean underneath before it had that stuff applied, and now it has had that stuff applied, so it should be good for a couple of years in terms of that. As I've alluded to, I have ordered some mods, or maybe I've already said that outright, but yeah, I have ordered some mods for this Jimny already, and I've really fallen down a rabbit hole of what you can do with these. I was quite impressed to see how many mods are already available for these, despite it being a relatively new car, and I am really excited to start fiddling with this and just use it. As I said, I've only had it a couple of days, so I'm really excited to to start using my Jimny. And the other benefit of having this now is that it means the Defender over there can be well, we can start pulling it apart really, because I don't need it anymore. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. It's not that I don't want it, but obviously we need to start rebuilding at some point. So now that I have this to get around for the purposes that I previously used the Defender for, it means that Defender can be put away, and we can slowly start peeling the layers of that back. Meanwhile, we have the Jimny for everything else. So yeah, I think enough talk. Let's jump in and go for a little drive. To be honest with you all, I didn't expect to be getting a Jimny so soon. I know I spoke about it in the video where I announced that I was going to be rebuilding my Defender, but I thought it would probably be another couple of months away or so at least. But I think it's just a case of right place, right time really. This opportunity came up and I just decided to jump on it, and I'm really glad I did. I've only had this Jimny for 3 or 4 days now, I think, but already I feel like it's got so much of the charm and character that you get from a Defender in a slightly different way, and I think all of that charm is only going to increase the more experiences that I have with this, and the more modifications we do, and the more I sort of tailor it to my needs and my tastes. As I said earlier, I think it's a bit of an ugly duckling at the moment, or it was, because I have a little confession to make, and that is that I'm actually filming this clip the day after the first part of this video. And Nissa and I did remove the bull bar and the lights yesterday, and it looks so much better now. As Nissa said, it looks like a Jimny now. I feel like I was almost holding myself back a bit from enjoying this car when it had that on, because it just, like, I did not like the look of it at all, and it just like didn't look like a Jimny. So now I'm like, I feel a bit more proud and a bit more happy driving this around. It feels like it's starting to look how I want it to look, at least. Plus, there are other modifications on the way, which I can't wait to get fitted. So I hope all of you are just as excited as I am for this Jimny, and maybe there'll be some new viewers out there as well who are not familiar with our channel. We normally focus on Land Rovers, and we'll continue to do that as well. That's not going to change. My Defender rebuild is still happening, and I've been ordering tons of parts for that, building that up for that rebuild to happen, probably once the weather starts to improve a bit more and it's warmer and drier outside, and we can spend days outside working on that. And actually I do have an update on the chassis and the bulkhead. That is just a couple of weeks away now from arriving here at home. So once that's here, we'll be good to start working on it, really. It is a little bit surreal for me to be driving around in this Jimny. I'm doing the same route now I was in that Defender Dilemma video that I did where I spoke about wanting to get one. I mean, one, because that video, I mean, it feels like 5 minutes ago that I was filming it, and I guess part of the reason of that is that the actual scenery hasn't really changed at all since then. The forest is still, I mean, it still looks the same. We haven't quite reached spring. I know it's not a supercar or anything wild like that, but for me it is like a bit of a pinch myself moment. It's really cool to have been able to go out and buy one of these as a vehicle that I've been really interested in, and now I get to experience firsthand and kind of tick off of my petrol head bucket list, if you like, that I've now owned a Jimny, and that's really, really cool. Originally, I was planning to not keep this forever. It was just, like I said, meant to be a substitute for the Defender, and then, I might sell it once the Defender is back on the road, because it does kind of serve the same purpose. However, I don't know if I'm going to be able to. We'll have to see how things go, but at the moment I'm loving this little thing, and I think it's going to be difficult to let go of it, to be honest. So I think I'll have to try and find an excuse to keep both of them side by side. I think it also depends a bit on how it goes down with the channel. If it's a big hit on YouTube and people want to see more content with the Jimny and more mods and stuff like that, then that'll certainly push me to want to keep hold of it as well. But that's quite a way down the line. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Anyway, so let's wait and see. But I think, like I said, even though it does kind of serve the same purpose as a Defender, I think it does it in quite a different way. It's still a boxy 4x4 that's fairly slow, with vague steering and all of, a lot of the sort of quirk and charm that you get from a Defender. But then you have to remember, this is a lot smaller than a Defender, and it weighs about half of a Defender 90. Which is crazy, and you feel that through the driving experience. Plus, you've got a 1.5 litre petrol engine underneath here, as opposed to the, in most Defenders you have diesels, and that also adds to a slightly different feeling for the driving. I think I'm at the point now where I'm starting to actually enjoy this Jimny. In my experience with buying cars, the first few days it's a bit like getting a new pair of shoes. You know they're good and you know they're going to be comfortable, but they're a bit stiff. The first few days you're not quite used to them, because you're kind of learning the shape and the size of the car and where buttons are and things like that, and you spend more time sort of recalibrating yourself to it rather than enjoying the driving experience. And I'm at that point now, I think, after a few days where I'm familiar with the vehicle, I know how it works and where buttons are, and I kind of have an appreciation of the size of the vehicle when I'm out driving. And now I'm just enjoying the experience of how this actually feels to use. It's got that fun small car feeling. If any of you out there have ever had like small, fun hot hatchbacks, things like that, it's got that feeling, but in something that also has the sort of go anywhere vibe you get from a Defender, I guess. I don't really know how to describe that any better, but God, it's fun. Really, really fun. It's so light and small. It's so cool. I love it. Love it.